All right, I want to do a quick overview of the course Blackboard shell and also spend a little bit of time going over the syllabus and schedule. So if you go into Blackboard and you select this course, this will be the page that pulls up. I'm going to go ahead and slip this thing into student view real quick. That way you get a chance to see it exactly the way it will show up on your computer screen. Okay, so you have the course. I'll do a lot of communications through announcements. Anytime I post an announcement, it gives me the opportunity to send that announcement out as an email. And so every time I post an announcement, that announcement will be accompanied by something that shows up in your inbox. That way you're always in the loop with regards to information that's coming into the course, and you can stay caught up with everything that's going on. The course content folder, this is going to be where all of the units are housed for this course. There's going to be 6 different units, and we'll take a look inside course content here in just a second. You also have a syllabus and schedule folder, and then your office hours. All right, so let's dive in real quick, and let's take a look at the syllabus and schedule folder. So we're going to go over, like I said just a second ago, the syllabus and schedule. So you can click on either one of these links, and you can pull those documents up directly through that folder. If we go inside course content, you'll see that Unit 1 is currently available. Okay, so if you click on Unit 1, you'll see 3 folders: what to read, what to watch, and what to do. Just so you know, every single unit is set up this way. And so there's going to be a lot of consistencies. Once you go through Unit 1, you'll pretty much know exactly what to expect in the other units, and things will flow pretty smoothly as a result. Okay, so you can click on each folder and it'll take you to the different things. Something to note is if you click on what to watch, this is where you'll find all of your PowerPoints. Okay, I know that sometimes there's an aversion to reading, and so I just wanted to make sure that everybody saw the PowerPoints and decided to put them into what to watch folder, because my suspicion is you're more inclined to watch something than you are to read something. In addition to that, you'll find lecture videos and any additional videos that might be posted for a particular unit. In Unit 1, we have quite a few supplemental videos, and you can click on these links. They'll take you directly to YouTube where those videos are housed. In lecture videos, I am going to be posting, you'll notice there's nothing here right now. So I'm going to be posting the course YouTube channel. Okay, so the link to the YouTube channel will be the exact same link in every single unit's what to watch folder. All right, but you'll be able to find that link in any of the given units, but all those links are going to take you to the exact same place. All right, I'm cleaning that up just a little bit right now, but I will send an announcement as soon as that's available. And I'll also let you know anytime I add a new lecture video to that YouTube channel. So communication is a big part of an online class, and I will definitely do my best over the course of the semester to hopefully even over communicate so that there's a lot of clarity with regards to what's going on, where things can be found, what your due dates are, and all of the other important information that's required to be successful over the course of this semester. Okay, so we're just going to go back here. In addition to what to read and what to watch, you'll also have a what to do folder. All right, so for Unit 1, we have some practice problems, and I just put those practice problems in the what to do folder. In addition to any type of practice problems that we might have for a given unit, I will also post any homeworks that might be associated with the unit and the quizzes that are associated with each unit as well. So what to read is read, what to watch, lecture videos, PowerPoints, and supplemental videos, and then what to do, any practice problems and assignments that are associated with that unit. And like I said, those will be the 3 folders that you see in all 6 units over the course of the semester. All right, well, let's dive in and let's take a little bit closer look at the syllabus. So the syllabus for this course is pretty straightforward. This is what we call an online asynchronous class. which means that there are no meeting times for this class, right? The class is 100% online, but we have a lot of interactive material through videos. We'll have some interactive sessions specifically around homework instructions and questions, exam reviews, and things of that nature. So we will be able to connect over the course of the semester from time to time, but this is predominantly an online class with no required meeting times. There is a textbook that I would recommend for the class, but it's certainly not required. Great textbook from Money Education. It's the Fundamentals of Financial Planning, the 7th edition. If you want to use that book, if that's something that's helpful to your personal learning process, then absolutely I recommend getting this book. If you're like, I'm not a huge reader when it comes to textbooks, I'm going to come and listen to the lectures, take good notes, things of that nature, then you can certainly be successful in this class without the book. But if it helps you as a learner, then by all means, this is the text that I would recommend. I'll be posting additional readings and videos on Blackboard, and you know where to find those, either what to read or what to watch. And the only thing that I will require this semester is a financial calculator. Now, the reason I'm going to go ahead and require this for you on the front side is because it'll be a calculator that you need through the remainder of your program, and also as you prepare to take the CFP exam, assuming that's part of your goals. And so we'll just go ahead and get that. It's the TI BA2 Plus non-programmable financial calculator. It's about 30 to 35 bucks. You can get it on Amazon really easily. And then any store that carries office supplies generally has this calculator as well. With it being an online class, having good access to internet and a reliable computer is going to be important. We'll also use a lot of Microsoft Office tools. And so we'll use Word and Excel specifically, and then obviously Blackboard, which is our learning management system. Okay, I'm going to let you read a lot of the course purpose and description and even the expected learning outcomes, but I will provide you a description in a nutshell, right? This is an introduction to financial planning for professionals, and we are going to learn about the financial planning process that drives how professionals interact with clients. And we're also going to learn how to apply different techniques inside that process with a specific focus on financial statement preparation and analysis, cash flow management, debt management, housing decisions, and education funding. So those will be the topics that we focus on, but our big overarching goal for this semester is really to learn how to operate inside the financial planning process that's set forth by the CFP board. Okay, so methods for assessing learning outcomes. We'll have a quiz for each unit, and then you'll also have 4 homework assignments. Okay, now if you need to communicate with us, the best way to do that is through Blackboard. Let's see here if this will give you. Yes, so if you hit this little drop down on Blackboard, there is a button, Contact Instructor. And so if you click on Contact Instructor, this will send me an email to my inbox that has a tag for this course on it. Just like you, I get a ton of emails every day. And when I see one that comes across that has this tag on it for a course, then it comes top priority for me, and I respond to it much more quickly than I might otherwise. Okay. Now, just a really quick note on emails. We will respond to emails within 48 hours, Monday through Friday, right? So just make sure that you note that as you plan your communications and you plan your workflow while you're working on quizzes, assignments, et cetera, et cetera. Now, there are no set office hour times for the semester. All office hours are by appointment. And so if you'd like to meet with me, we also have a TA for the course. His name is OJ. OJ's awesome. He is what's called a PhD candidate, which means he's passed all of his PhD coursework. and he's in the process of writing his dissertation so that he can get graduated and go be a faculty member somewhere else. So OJ is a great resource as well. If you'd like to meet with either one of us, though, just shoot us an email, again, through Contact Instructor, and we will work with you to find a time, set up a calendar invitation that includes a Zoom link, and we will meet that way. Okay, so quizzes, as previously stated, 6 quizzes, each worth 100 points. Your lowest quiz grade will be dropped. Okay, so if you don't perform well on one, if you forget about one, whatever, then you do have the opportunities to drop a quiz grade over the course of the semester. Okay, homeworks, 4 homeworks, 2 associated with financial statement preparation and analysis, and 2 homeworks concentrated around education funding and recommendations. Each homework is worth 75 points. And I'll show you a little bit more about due dates when we get to the schedule. Okay, the rest of this stuff is around grading. Okay, so I do have a late work policy. I do accept late work, but if you submit it late, there's a 10% penalty for every 24 hours that it's late, no prorating of time, right? So if you submit it 2 hours late, that's the same as submitting it 24 hours late. So just something to note when you're preparing your assignments. Okay, 800 total points in the class. Quizzes make up about 62.5%. Each homework makes up a little over 9% of your grade. And so that's how that'll play out with a standard grading distribution, right? 90% or above, it's an A, and on down the line. Now, there's also some syllabus statements that you can take a look at. These required syllabus statements are around academic integrity, observance of religious holidays, and things of that nature. And then Texas Tech also provides some additional statements that you might be interested in looking at. We also have an AI policy at the university level. Professors can choose between 3 different options for AI use. My selection is allowed with disclosure. I think that AI is a great supportive tool, and I think you can use it to support your learning over the course of the semester. I don't think it's appropriate to use as a substitute for learning. And so if you use AI to help you in your research process, as you go through different assignments or whatever the case may be, if you will cite that and disclose your use of that tool, according to the guidelines outlined in this disclosure statement, then we will be in great shape, and there won't be any concerns as far as that's concerned. Also, just in case you're curious, the CFP board has principal knowledge topics that are required for CFP professionals to be proficient in. And so these are the knowledge topics that we're going to cover in this course. All right. With that being said, let's move on and let's take a quick look at the schedule. Okay. So January 15th through 31st is Unit 1. And you can just kind of see the dates for each unit moving on down the line. In this course, I do not make all content available at one time. I open things up as we progress. So you'll notice here that Unit 1 is available the 15th, Unit 2 becomes available the 25th, and on down the line. Okay. You'll also have the topic that we're covering for the unit, anything that needs to be watched or read, and then anything that needs to be done along with the due dates for those assignments. All right. Now, when we're looking at quizzes, one thing to note is that if you see available on 125 through 131, that will open at 12 a.m. and close at 11:59 p.m. So this quiz becomes available 12 a.m. midnight on 125 and closes / is due at 11:59 p.m. on January the 31st. All quiz open dates are Saturdays. All quiz close dates are Fridays. Okay. And so that's important to note. So really this is open for an entire week. And you can take that quiz at your convenience at any point in time during that window while it's open. If you have any questions about that, let me know. But you do have a week to take it, starting at 12 a.m. on the Saturday, which is the first date, closing at 11:59 p.m. on the Friday, which is the second date. Here you'll see your financial statement homeworks, part 1 and part 2, as part of unit 3, and then your education funding homeworks, part 1 and part 2, under unit 5. Because we take an exam, essentially, I call them quizzes, but they're essentially an exam over every single unit. I do not require a final exam, and the last assignment for this course will be due on May the 2nd. All right, well, I think that gets us through the syllabus and schedule. Hopefully that provides you a good overview and introduction into what the class might look like, some of the course expectations, and where to go to find information in Blackboard and the due dates for different assignments. One thing I do want to note really quickly that you don't see on the assignments is the CFP board account and the syllabus agreement. Both of these are extra credit. All right, each assignment here is worth 10 points in extra credit. So, if you made an 80 on a quiz, turning this in brings that 80 up to a 90. All right, if you make a 75 on a homework, turning this in brings that 75 up to an 85, or whatever the case may be. All right, well, hey, like I said, hit that contact instructor button on Blackboard if you need to contact me for any reason. If you have questions, just let me know. Happy to help. And again, looking forward to a great semester.